Oscar Pistorius. Parole. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Many years ago, I undertook an analysis of Oscar Pistorius, Blade Runner as he was once known, to explain why he is a narcissist. You can find that analysis on my blog at narcsite.com to understand why I found him to be a narcissist. He was sent to prison. And of course, prison is problematic for a narcissist for a variety of reasons. First of all, if the narcissist is one that operates a facade, the stigma attached with being sent to prison causes a real problem for that facade. It shatters it. The narcissist facade of perhaps superiority or success, often seen with graders or upper mid-rangers, is blown apart because of the fact that they're in prison. That denotes that you're not successful and that you're not superior. Furthermore, the narcissist that operates a facade of them being a kind and decent person evidently isn't a kind and decent person if they've been convicted of a criminal offence and been sent to prison. Therefore, the facade is dealt a mortal blow by the attendance of the narcissist in prison. Naturally, the fuel matrix of the narcissist shrinks. Incarcerated, they are no longer able to have the daily physical involvement with an intimate partner primary source if one existed. Many of the non-intimate secondary sources by way of family and friends will be removed from them, not least because those individuals may well express concern at the behaviour of the narcissist and distance themselves, thus cutting off the narcissist. It remains the case, of course, that some may well write to the narcissist, attend prison visits, and therefore certain of the members of the fuel matrix may well remain functional within it, but their role is much reduced because they simply cannot be physically present to the narcissist as regularly as they once were. This means that the fuel level for the narcissist dips. It also means access to residual benefits associated with those relevant members of the fuel matrix are lost. It isn't necessarily the case, however, that the narcissist will enter a fuel crisis. This is because there are plenty of appliances within the prison system that a narcissist can utilize. First of all, there'll be a cellmate, and in some instances, it's the case that certain individuals become gay for the stay, thus engaging in intimacy with that cellmate or others, thus heightening the potency of the fuel that is received. They may well create a new intimate partner primary source whilst in prison. If not intimate, that individual may well become a non-intimate partner primary source, the chief person that is controlled, that provides most of the fuel, etc. If there is no replacement, and there often will be, then there's a host of non-intimate secondary sources that the narcissist can rely on. Over time, other prisoners become friends. They have daily interaction with prison officers, who might not be friends, but the level of interaction escalates them to non-intimate secondary sources. There, of course, are solicitors, lawyers that may well come to visit and interact, psychologists. There may well be other members of the prison staff, and thus there is plenty of people amongst the prison population that a narcissist can interact with where they gain plenty of fuel. Of course, if it's the case that they're confined to a cell for, say, 23 hours a day, their fuel levels will plummet, and therefore they will be reliant upon any interaction they can get, if they have a cellmate, or if not, from when they have association in that 1 hour. In those circumstances, the fuel levels may well drop and problems arise for that narcissist. The fact of being in prison, of course, wounds the narcissist. They're denied their freedom, and that shackles the narcissist and interferes with their need for control. Repeatedly, the narcissist will rail against this by pleading that they're innocent, launching appeals, trying to get publicity in the press to highlight their cause, thus to nullify that threat to control. If you'd like to learn more about the impact of prison on the narcissist, there are videos that I've created about that very subject. But what about Oscar Pistorius? There he was, known the world over, wealthy, fated, seen as a triumph of dedication and determination over adversity. A man who was competing at an international level, not a bad-looking chap who had a beautiful girlfriend. And then, as a consequence of his ignited heated fury and the rampant paranoia and jealousy of his girlfriend, jealousy because he was afraid of losing her, he ends up killing her and then is a convicted killer. What for him now, though? Well, The Telegraph by Ben Farmer and Petter Thornycroft tells us, fat, bearded, and a smoker, Oscar Pistorius may be free, but his career is over. South Africa's disgraced Olympian Oscar Pistorius has been granted parole and will be released from jail on January the 5th. Now, this is great news for a narcissist, naturally, because it will remove one of the threats to control, prison, and allow him greater access to a fuel matrix, aspects of his fuel matrix. The amputee Blade Runner, who won 6 Paralympic gold medals and reached the semi-finals of the 200-metre sprint at the 2012 London Olympics, was told he could walk free after serving 9 years for the murder of his girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp, in 2013. The decision marks a new chapter in a case that continues to enthrall South Africa and the world beyond, and generated one of the trials of the century, which at the time, of course, was manna from heaven for Pistorius in terms of the fuel that he was receiving and, of course, the belief that he would have maintained, generated by the delusion of his narcissism, that there was no way that he would go to prison. But it is another painful blow to the family of the woman that he killed, who believe he has never told the truth about the night he shot their daughter. Well, they will be entirely correct about that, because Pistorius, as a narcissist, has his own version of the truth. Only Oscar knows the truth, said her father, Barry Steenkamp. Well, in actual fact, he doesn't. He's a stranger to it, because his narcissism will revise what actually went on. Mr. Steenkamp said that in his last interview before the 80-year-old died in September. If he had told the truth in the beginning, he would have felt a lot better. People would have forgiven him quicker. Well, he wouldn't tell the truth because his narcissism wouldn't allow him to do so. Pistorius was on top of the world when, in the early hours of Valentine's Day 2013, he fired 4 shots through a bathroom door, killing Steenkamp, who was inside, ignition of heated fury. The previous year, he had competed in London on his customised carbon fibre prostheses against the world's fastest able-bodied athletes. The triumph of the boy who had 2 legs amputated below the knee in childhood because of a congenital condition became an inspiring example of humanity's ability to overcome a disability. And of course, all the plaudits and praise that came with that was massive amounts of fuel for Pistorius. In South Africa, a country that embraces unifying heroes, he was an idol. With his position as favoured son, it was unsurprising he was soon going out with one of the country's favourite daughters, model and television personality Reeva Steenkamp, who was the face of an anti-bullying campaign. What appeared a gilded life of red carpet events ended only 3 months into their relationship, when he opened fire in his Pretoria home with his 9mm pistol. Prosecutors alleged Steenkamp, then aged 29, was killed while hiding in the toilet after a heated row, ignition of heated fury, argumentativeness. Pistorius, the only witness, claimed it was a terrible accident. He was unaware his girlfriend had got up to go to the lavatory, and he had mistaken her for a dangerous intruder behind the door. Revision of history. Lie. The trial transfixed South Africa. It was the first in the country to be televised, and daily proceedings were poured over at prime time. People were angry with Oscar. Negative fuel, recalls David O'Sullivan, a prominent journalist who hosted a nightly television panel of legal pundits. He was supposed to fly our flag, and none of that was racial. Blacks and whites said the same. They also felt betrayed by Oscar, as murder is so rife in South Africa. As the hearing went on, South Africans debated every disclosure and every fine legal point. When the lawyers and I went for a drink, people stopped them for autographs and selfies, says O'Sullivan. The high-profile case also highlighted that the country's epidemic of murder, and in particular its high levels of violence against women, did not just affect townships, says Lisa Vetton of the Gender Violence and Urban Transformation Project at the University of Johannesburg. People started taking an interest and learnt that this didn't only happen in poor black communities, she says. 6 women are murdered every day in South Africa. After months of evidence, Judge Masipa, one of the country's first black female judges, appeared to believe Pistorius' account and convicted him of culpable homicide, a charge comparable to manslaughter. Yet her decision was then overruled by the Supreme Court, which found that even if Pistorius believed he was shooting at an intruder, he must have reasonably foreseen that the person behind the door would die. As such, he was guilty of murder under the principle of dolus eventualis, an obscure legal term which quickly entered South African vocabulary. Chris Greenland, a retired judge, who was one of the many who each night dissected the case on television, explains, "If someone fires at birds in your garden, for example, knowing that there is a school playground in the background, it can then be argued that the shooter did foresee that she might also kill a child." When Judge Masipa gave Pistorius 6 years, the Supreme Court again intervened, calling the term shockingly lenient. Pistorius was eventually jailed in November 2017 for 13 years and 5 months, taking into account time already served. Pistorius has not been pictured since. Unconfirmed reports from his time inside Atteridgeville prison have suggested he has grown a beard, gained weight, and taken up smoking, making him unrecognisable from the elite athlete he once was. Earlier this year, the Constitutional Court ruled the authorities had calculated wrongly when he should be eligible for parole. Confusion over when his sentence started meant he should have been eligible several months previously. Before he died, Barry Steenkamp declared that he had no objection if the authorities granted parole, though he acknowledged his mind might change as the date approached. He had met Pistorius in prison as part of a restorative justice program, but his wife June refused, saying she was afraid of what she would do if she confronted him. She did not attend today's parole hearing either. Instead, June Steenkamp wrote a letter to be read at the meeting, detailing the devastating personal consequences of Pistorius' crime and saying she did not believe the ex-athlete was rehabilitated. That would, of course, have provided challenge fuel. Rehabilitation requires someone to engage honestly with the full truth of his crime and the consequences thereof. Nobody can claim to have remorse if they're not able to engage fully with the truth, she said. And indeed, as a narcissist, Pistorius has no remorse. Despite this, officials ruled that Pistorius could be released. As part of his parole, which will last until the 5th of December 2029, he will be forbidden from leaving his area of Pretoria without permission and obliged to attend an anger management program and to do community service. Family sources told the Telegraph that Pistorius would live with his uncle, Arnold Pistorius, a wealthy property developer, at his Waterkloof mansion in Pretoria. Now aged 37, however, Pistorius' career as an athlete is over, which of course will be a threat to control. Yet he may still be able to find employment in coaching or elsewhere in the sports industry, sources close to the case predict. He may also choose to study. If he cannot overcome his notoriety in his homeland after parole ends, Pistorius may also follow the example of many South Africans and choose to emigrate. He has 2 siblings thought to be abroad, including a sister Amy, reported to be living in London. However, if Pistorius is today contemplating his future, June Steenkamp, now widowed and reportedly in difficult financial circumstances, is left with the past and her daughter's legacy. Originally from Blackburn in Lancashire, she has launched a foundation in Reeva's name to highlight violence against women and children. Speaking earlier this year for the 10th anniversary of her daughter's death, she admitted each day was hard. She was still grieving. The 78-year-old said, "We just love her so much and miss her. Part of our life is gone, but we will see her one day, and that's what we look forward to." Pistorius, a narcissist who killed his girlfriend in a jealous fit of ignited fury, is to be released, thus removing one of the threats to control. But it comes with a cost for him. He's lost his career, which is part of the facade and also a threat to control. And therefore, the notoriety that comes with him means that it will cause him difficulties with regard to trying to get back to the lifestyle that he once enjoyed, which, of course, remains as a repeated threat to his control. He will be fueled. He's still spoken about. People will still interact with him, as they have done so in prison. But his facade has been shattered, and he will have difficulties in getting anywhere close to where he once was in terms of the benefits of a beautiful girlfriend, a career, the adoration that he had. All of that when brought up, will be a threat to his control, and his narcissism, as always, will seek to nullify each threat to control as and when it occurs, either by causing an emission of heated fury so that he responds nastily towards anybody that criticises him, or more likely, whinging and doling out pity plays as we saw throughout the trial, or in other instances just having to jettison it and stay within a position of withdrawal. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.